And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, here's another game in the Odynaut series. This is a series of games from Odynaut Games, and they basically are aliens who have come to Earth and they like to game. Well, they like to gamble in casinos, and apparently they do such a good job at it that the casinos kicked them out. So they've started their own casinos and have their own weird games, which is the theme for this game, which uses some casino-style thinking to make a game probably unlike any game you've seen before. Let me show you. The game has 3 decks of cards. We have a deck here of cards that has different face cards involved in this deck. The Joker, Queen, King, Ace, and Jack. That also has some casinos, like this is the Berlin Casino. There's 5 casino cards in this deck. We have another deck that is made up of different chips, and I'll talk about these in just a second, but you're trying to get the cards from these 2 sets. So on your turn, you have 3 cards that are face up in front of you of the 3 different suits, diamonds, jacks, hearts, or spades, but there's also crowns. There's a 5th suit for whatever reason. Now on your turn, you can pass. If you pass, you get another card that you put in front of yourself. So let's say it's my turn and I have these 4 cards in front of myself. Another thing you can do is you can place a card on top of a card in the middle row and to form a grouping. Now here I would place 2 on top of the middle row, which would give me 5 hearts. Now I would look at this card here, and this card shows you that if I put 5 hearts, I get to draw 5 cards. Now if it had been 5 diamonds, I'd get 7 cards, 5 crowns, 15 cards, 4 diamonds, 5 cards. And you see there's different combinations. So when I draw those cards, I can draw them from the chip deck and or the face card deck. And once I form a combination in the middle, I will then place it here like this, and it's possible that I might get another combination. Now in this instance, I don't have a combination, but another thing you can do trying to form a combination is I can discard a card and say, okay, clubs. So now I'm going to cover up every club. I'm gambling here hoping to get a set. Crown and spade. So close. If that had been 2 spades, I would have had a group of 3 spades. So then I use up my other diamond and I'll say hearts. So turn over hearts. Oh, lucky me. It turned into a spade, and now I have a group of spades, which would give me 1 more card. And then we cover those up, and play goes to the next person. So you can see that these cards are going to get covered up a lot as people try to make sets of 3, 4, and 5 of the different cards in front. And there's very few crowns in the deck, so it's hard to do those, but if you get those, well, good on you. Now what you're doing when you get these chips here is you're trying to put these chips in sets, essentially, where you're building a big giant chip that's going to be worth points. So to build a chip, you need the 4 parts of a chip, and as far as I can tell from the rules, it doesn't really matter what colors, but you can see each one's worth different points, 5, 15, 10, and 50 points. But you also need to be able to play a casino out when you put out a chip. There are 5 casinos in the chip deck, and there are 5 in the face cards deck. So you're hunting these casinos down, because this is how you win the game, is to get these chips out in front of you. Now, you can also use these face cards, and the face cards basically have different things that they can do. They can protect you. Like, for example, an ace protects you from every card except a joker. And so you can put these cards out so that people can, because otherwise people will come after you. Maybe, let's say this ace wasn't here and someone played a queen on me here. They would then be able to replace one of the corners in my chip thing. And I may not want them to replace a corner. Maybe they replace this 50 with a 1. And that's horrible, because I just lost 49 points. So these cards will let you replace things and mess with other people's chips or increase your own. And so but you can also put them in front of you as defense. So this will continue, the game continues, until 4 of the 5 different casinos are out on the board. There's 5 different casinos. There's 2 of each. One is in each of the different decks. So let's say, for example, I have out here Amsterdam, Las Vegas, Macau, and Berlin. That's 4 of the 5 casinos. Those are out in front of people for various reasons. Then the game ends. You add up the points from your chips. Whoever has the most points is the winner. This is kind of a weird game here. I mean, on one hand, you have the suits of cards in the middle, and you're trying to make sets by either putting cards out and forming a deliberate set, watching, of course, what your neighbor's going to do next, so that you don't set them up to score, and gambling, where you say, okay, there's 3 spades out there, I'd like to change those spades to something else. That's an interesting, if very random, mechanic. But then you have the attacking, the take that part, where you're playing these face cards on each other and messing each other up. And then you have the total randomness of those chips. I mean, they go from 1 to 50 points. Here's the deal, folks. This is not a good game. It's not a good game remotely. It's wild, it's wacky, it's crazy, it doesn't make sense. The point totals are going to be skewed. You could have 315 to 7. You know, just really odd. But that doesn't mean it's not fun. And it is kind of fun, if it's just a little funky to get your mind around. It's fun to form the little sets out there. It's fun to get these cool chips, and the whole thing is very colorful and it's a big splash of theme and color on the table. But at the end, when you're done, you're like, what did I just do? What does any of this mean? I attacked you, switched your chips out, and it just doesn't come together at all. And maybe that was the intent of them. I just think that the audience for this is going to be limited. Because there are people who like light take-that games, where you go after other people and you play cards in them. And this is kind of like that, but it has this convoluted placing cards in the middle and drawing chip cards that's going to confuse people. And then for people who want a more involved game, are going to do all this moving cards around, doing this, putting them here, getting sets, drawing cards. You can only keep so many cards between turns, etc. Build chips, just to find out that it's pretty random. You know, it's like, They have like strategy tips in the rule book, like use these cards wisely. No, you just play your cards and see what happens. Yeah, you have an ace. Where should I put it? You have like 2 chips. Guard the more expensive one. This is not a rocket scientist style game. But at the same time, there's a lot of moving cards all around the table. And that middle set where you're putting out the sets, you just keep putting more and more cards or more cards here. The deck runs out. You take the top 5, shuffle the rest. It's just always going on. And it looks cool and feels cool, but really is complete luck. So, sure, if you get a chance to run across this, maybe you want to give it a play, and I think the theme is cool and the artwork is cute, but it's just kind of a mishmash combobulation of just fritz. It's like the fizz. You know, when you fill a fountain drink, that fizz that comes to the top, it gives you a little bit of flavor of something that seems cool, but there's nothing really there. That's what Chipleader is.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com. Shut the door!
There.